position. Yeah. That will be complete on on axis with the light coming from the projector. So it will be right in the center. But let's just see it from the menu there, and then we can always go back to that. Okay. Yeah. So the menu is quite straightforward. Inputs. Again, you can select whichever input you want to do. Okay, that's just very straightforward. Okay. Next one down, we have the test patterns. To see the test patterns, you have to select OK. Yeah, and it will ask you want to see test patterns. You press OK again. And now you get the first one is a white test pattern. Yeah. Then you got a black fill. You get red, green, blue. You get the checkerboard, alignment grid. This is probably the best one for you guys to adjust the focus of the image. With this lens, actually, when you get closer there, it's quite good, actually. That lens is, the lens that we have there is one of our lenses. It's quite, it's fine.
And it's the one with the most wide angle you have.
We actually have another one that is wider than that. But this one is motorized. The other one is just a fixed lens. It's a 0. I need to check that. I think it's a 0.7.
This one?
So.
Yeah.
0.73 was it?
I think so.
To
1.1.
Zoom.
Okay, well, those are the test patterns. Now, when you have the test patterns, if you try to do something else, it won't work. Okay, so you try to press menu now, it won't work. You need to exit the test pattern. So you keep going on to the right until you see the logo, or you see that, and now you know that you exit the test patterns. Now you can go back to the menu. Okay. If you want to focus, well, obviously you're not going to have motorized focus anyway, but you press OK once, and you got the zoom and the focus. You press OK again, and you have the shift. That's a shortcut. Okay, so you don't have to go to menu and lens to do all those things. But I don't think this is going to be much help if you're going to be using those fixed lenses.
With these fixed lenses.
But anyway, it will help with the shift if you have some shift with those lenses. Okay. So that's this pattern. So lenses, you could do exactly the same thing that I showed you from this shortcut. Now you can lens lock it. So I will always leave that off, because if you leave it on, it means that nobody can do anything with the lens, like lens
all
shift
the motors
focus.
are blocked.
Yeah, so it's just closed. Okay. And the lens control is the same thing that I just showed you before. When you press the OK button, there is a shortcut. Okay. So that's just to do zoom and focus, press again, and do the shift. Okay. Center lens, it will move the lens automatically to be on axis with the light coming from the light engine, so it will be completely in the center. It's always good to do that, so you know the starting point, you know where you're starting from when you're going to do a shift. But obviously, you have to see how much shift you can do with those lenses.
For me, it's good when at the first beginning to making the adjustment to know where I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you start with the center projector, get that
Yes.
in the center, and then align the two to those. Yeah.
This is the next option. Is not something that you will use. This is just for an ultra short throw lens that we have. Okay, and then you have to tell the projector that you're going to be using that lens, but since you're not going to be using it, just forget about it. And then you got a lens memory, so potentially you could actually save the position and the zoom of lenses.
Maybe that's not.
But you need to have the motorized lens. You need to have the zoom motorized lens, otherwise, what's the point?
But the right and left shift.
Oh, for the shift only? Yeah, okay. Yeah, for the shift, yeah, you could use it for the shift.
Because
someone plays
we need a little bit, because with this rigging, it's not possible to do it really exactly, because you even can go steps like 10, 20 centimeters.
You can in that case, yeah, makes sense. Okay. So that's lens. Image, right. This is a bit important. Those picture modes have different brightness settings, okay? Some people, it's very similar principle to what you see from a TV, where you have like different settings to watch a movie, or if you want to be just displaying something from a computer. Or my advice is you leave it set to high brightness, because it's going to always give you the brightest point that the projector can do. Otherwise, you are literally throwing some light away while we do. So leave it set to high brightness, okay? The dynamic black, I would personally leave it set to off, because if you turn it off on, obviously you're going to lose quite a lot of brightness again. Okay, you see the big difference there. So I will leave that off. Okay. The gamma, this is up to you. It's a question of taste, which gamma you want to be using. The standard that most people use is around 2.4. So I would say the 2.2 probably is a bit low, but maybe 2.35. Whatever you do, just make sure the all four projectors have the same. Okay, otherwise they will look a little different. Okay. These ones, I will never touch them. This is something that comes, it's like what you have in your TV.
Yes.
You think that you are adding brightness. You are, no, it's not color correction as such. No, it's not. It's just electronically giving you the perception that you are adding brightness and contrast, but really you're not making the projector any brighter. You are just adding artifacts.
What I want to say, normally you do with these things the color correction, but you don't do it with the projectors. You're doing with the.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In the old days, yeah, but you wouldn't do color correction with that. It's not gonna work. Same with sharpness. You think that you are going to make the image sharper by keep adding that. You have to make the image sharp by adjusting the focus. Okay. This is the only thing that is adding. Can you see? It gives you the impression that the words, I mean, the text is a bit sharper, but actually you are adding quite a lot of artifacts again. You know. Yeah. So just leave it set to zero. I always recommend not to play with any of these settings. Same with noise reduction. Freeze is just you're going to freeze the image. Okay. Might be helpful if you are using some video and you just cannot pause the clip or something. And resync is just to resync the source again. Okay.
For example, that you change there
something and it's just not.
And the resolution is
or
changed.
Something. Yeah, or something froze there or something. You just want to know exactly what the projector is getting. Right. Okay. Color. This is a bit more important, okay, for you guys, because you are going to have more than one projector next to each other. You always will have something to compare with. Most of the time, people have one projector in one room, and it doesn't matter whether the colors are a little bit off because they don't have anything else to refer to. So their eyes won't know if they look different or not. Really. Here, you're going to have a bit of a problem because you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 projectors. Yeah, and you're going to be quite lucky, the ones on the floor, because you are walking quite close to it, you're going to struggle to see the difference unless that you have very good eyes, so you start getting yourself a little bit farther from the image. But the reference with that projector might be something that people might notice. So definitely you want to match that with as close as possible with anything that you have here. So the settings in the color are very, very important. And this is what we're going to be playing with the PR655 when we do the color match in a minute. So I'm going to just explain very briefly now what the settings are. The color space, you always leave it set to auto, okay? Just forget anything else. You don't have YUV sources or anything, just leave it set to auto, okay? This is something that it might confuse people, and this is what we're going to be playing with in the next hour, okay? So you have 4 different settings there. One of them is called Color Max. Color Max is what we use internally to make several projectors to display exactly the same colors. Okay, so that's going to be the purpose of what we're going to do with that machine.
That's really
Therefore,
matching.
You have to have that selected.
That's a matching.
Yes, that's the matching. Yeah. Then when it says manual color matching, yeah, that means that the option underneath is now available. Before it was grayed out, and now you can go there. You can turn the turns pattern on, and you can go to red. And you can do each of those colors manually, okay? But again, this is not something that you want to do because you are only playing with the perception of your eyes.
Yeah.
And your perception will be different from your perception. Yeah. So Yeah, for some applications might be okay.
You have to measure it with the instrument to see really matching each one to the other.
That's right. But I just want to show you what it does there. Okay.
So your recommendation: don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my recommendation is
normally don't touch it.
My recommendation is if we're going to color match them now, you leave that set to color max. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But because you're going to be using different lenses, when those lenses arrive, you might see very small differences again. You might think, why? Because we have the same lenses.
With your advice to buy one...
my recommendation is to have some sort of...
But you can do this color max even with this instrument, not only with this what you have.
There are many different instruments to do that. Yeah. It's just that this one is very accurate. We use this because we're a projector manufacturer, so we want to use the best. But yeah, there are CL200s from Minolta that could do that as well. It's not as accurate, but it will do the job because you are measuring them all with the same machine. Therefore, they will refer to the data from that machine. So technically, it will be accurate. Okay. Definitely better than nothing.
Yeah. You just started something with your recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your recommendation?
My recommendation.
He's got a 25,000 thing. You buy a €1,000 little machine that does the same thing as that, just not as well.
People have CL200s from Minolta. It's a machine this size. I was actually tempted to bring one because it was easy for me to carry down a plane. But then I thought, well, since I have the real thing, I might just take that with me. But people have different, because we're the manufacturer of projectors. Some people say that for lamp-based projectors, the CL200 is okay. For laser technologies, because of obviously the wavelengths and all that, it's more accurate to have something like the PR655. But to be honest, not everybody can afford to spend 20,000 euros in a machine to leave it there most of the time unused. So I understand that. So a CL200 will do will do the job. Okay. So color. So color max, it will be what we're going to be using with the PR655. Manual color matching is if you want to do it with literally with your eyes, just trying to find the best matching. Color temperature is just a standard color temperatures as all projectors have. The color temperature is something, I don't know how familiar you are with the black curved and how colors become cooler or warmer as you go up and down from that black curve. 6,500 Kelvin is the white point that most people would use. But in this case, you don't want to use that. And the reason for that is that we cannot manufacture two projectors with exactly the same 6,500 Kelvin. That's the point of color matching projectors.
Let's say the machine doesn't know what it is. Yes. You have to calibrate it.
That 6,500 Kelvin
is there different than
when the projector left the factory and we put in a complete dark room and we measure it and we put the data in the projector, and that's saved in the projector. But that might not match by the time, I mean, with the light conditions that you have here, and compared to another projector, it might not be the same. So you cannot use that. That's something that people can use when they only have one projector in one room.
Even this one number means a mixing of thousands of informations.
To be honest, you can, when you have the setting complete, I mean the setup of this complete, you can have a little play around and see what happens. Put them all to 6,500 Kelvin, and it will speak by itself what you'll see. Because you're not going to be breaking anything. All that you have to do to go back to whatever we're going to measure now is just go back to your color max, and it'll be fine. Okay.
So that saves that setting.
Yes. Yeah. Don't do a factory reset, then it will clear it. But for as long as you don't do a factory reset, you can always go back to color match.
Another question: is it possible to store these informations outside of the projector?
What is possible is you can. Unfortunately for this model, you cannot, with that projector controller, you can back up all the information that you have and save it in your computer.
Because if you do, for example, if you have to do any reset once, but we want to make one of those things again
My advice is going to be that when we do the color match now, where we're going to do it, you are going to do it, guys, because I've done it a million times. You're going to do it. I'll tell you, I'll do one, or I'll show you how to do one, and you'll do the rest. And you have to get a piece of paper and you're going to write the serial number of each projector, and you're going to write the numbers for red, green, blue, and white, X and Y's. And my suggestion is keep that piece of paper with you.
Okay.
Because even if you end up with a completely different projector, because at some point it gets swapped because of a failure or something else, you can always refer to those numbers, which were the most accurate readings that we did, considering the light conditions that you have in here.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
that's my advice. Keep that piece of paper.
Okay.
Okay. So that's color temperature and gains and lifts. This is what we were talking about earlier, about how single chip projectors, because you didn't have individual chips, you had to be using the lifts and gains, and that's how it affects the blacks and the whites. Okay, and it takes forever to actually do the right color balance of the projectors, because you have to keep going back to the screen, measure it, and then you go to lifts and gains, and then you go red, green, and blue lift, red, green, and blue gain. The lift, the gain refers to the blacks. The gain refers to the whites.
Auf Deutsch? Also Gain weiß ich ja, das ist Verstärkung. Aber Lift? Was heißt es auf Deutsch? What? I don't know the word in German. Lift.
Right, I don't know the word.
No, gain is the amplification.
Yes.
But lift, what does it mean?
Well, you are raising or lowering, let's say.
Okay.
But you have to think about the color
okay.
plot in order to understand what you're doing. You have to think about your color gamut and see when you're moving. That's what it's referring in this particular case. It's not something that you need to do here, so don't worry about it. Okay. I just want to make sure that you understand that the settings there, what each of them would do, but the most important one for you is the color max. Okay? That's what you have to do.
Don't touch it.
Yeah. Now, when you select color max, this is something important. When you select color max, underneath it's telling you color max peak. Yeah? Right. I'll explain this a bit better in a minute, but what happens is peak means the projector is giving you the brightest illumination they can give without any electronic processing for it. Okay? Which means that when you go with that machine and you measure red, green, and blue, you always have to have it set to peak, which means there is no processing. Because if you go to with your machine and you go there and you have 6,500 Kelvin selected, you are not taking the correct measurements, because the electronics are already using some processing to make those colors warmer.
It means that the lasers giving all what they can, or the high as everything out, without any correction, electronical.
It's just the laser coming out of the lens without anything.
With anything, and so then you do the correction with this color max, and you reduce something to make the balance.
So it's important that when we do the measurements, as we will do in a minute, I'm going to put a Y test pattern, and we'll put the machine, and it will give us X and Y. We'll write them down. I'll put the red, give us X and Y. We'll write them down. We'll write all of them right down for each projector, and then we're going to send that information to the projector. But if those measurements are taken with something that is not peak, your readings are all wrong, because the electronics need to be completely neutral about the level of color that they are sending to the image, if that makes sense. Yeah? So when you go to color, that's why when you select color match or color max, it goes to peak. But underneath, you'll see that. Okay? And now is when things start getting a bit confusing. This is the only part of the menu that we are going to have to spend a lot of time talking about it, because this is something that most people don't understand or gets a little bit confused. The rest is just very straightforward. So let's allow ourselves time to understand this.
What I guess is the result you store in user.
So what we're going to do is you are going to measure things and you're going to save them in the projector. But you don't save them in any user. You just save them in the projector and they stay with the projector. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to use or save in user 1 or user 2 is a target. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A target means that there are different targets. Each movie has a different target. There's a Star Wars target. There's a Back to the Future target. Okay? When again, we could talk about this for absolutely ages. But I come from the cinema environment. I used to work in cinema, and I will get a letter from Steven Spielberg telling me, "Look, I got my new movie coming out, and I spent a lot of money with this director of photography to make this movie look very orange or very blue or it has a very special tint to it." Okay. Mm-hmm. When that movie arrives at the cinema, I get a letter from Spielberg telling me, I want red, X and Y 0.000. And I have to put that in the projector. Because what's the whole point of spending Spielberg so much money with a director of photography making the movie look that? And then it goes to the theaters, mm-hmm. and people have different settings because you know, especially now that there are digital projectors, the settings are different. So each movie might have a different level of red, green, and blue numbers, okay? And this is why there are different user targets, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, there is a standard target that is called REC 709, okay? REC 709, if you type it on Wikipedia or put it on Google, it will bring up the standard level of red, green, white, and blue, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's the standard for high definition.
How did you, okay?
That's the standard for high definition. So if you don't, because as I said, there are so many different targets. If you want to use a standard, I would use REC 709 because that's the mm-hmm. HD standard, okay? And now you might wonder what HDTV means. Well, HDTV means REC 709, actually. But why, you're probably thinking, okay, so if HDTV means REC 709, it means that when you select HDTV, yeah, it goes warmer, mm-hmm. you already have all the data there for HDTV, the standard. Yes, correct. But what do you think is going to happen when you select that projector to HDTV?
And this one,
projector
and this
to
one
HDTV,
is
and that one to HDTV.
All
they will
different.
look different because the data saved there, it was measured in a different environment, and each projector won't give you the exact level of colors. So you still have to color match.
Okay, okay. I have to ask a question.
Yeah.
This is just here. You're making a setup.
Yeah.
For that you can make your color correction. Then you store the color correction, mm-hmm. and if you go in again, it gives a different result because you.
Well, once you save the information, it will be different. At the moment, what HDTV is displaying is the numbers that the guys put in the factory in Manchester when they built that projector. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but because we're going to measure the light in this room, it's going to be different than what they measure there because they have a completely dark room with black walls and everything. And here, it's
and for example, no lighting like this. What we put off.
This is the thing. You will have to measure and we are going to measure the colors now. And black. I want you to measure it in with the same conditions that you're going to be normally using this room. So if this room is going to have these lights on, I will want to measure it with those lights
mm-hmm.
on.
But we don't have. We will not have.
Okay, so in that case, we have to measure it dark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what I want you to understand is that you cannot expect to put all projectors set to HDTV and the colors are going to be identical because you need to put the data in the projector. And then
but for me to understand, if you would be in another situation like this, one of those cinema, yeah. who said we have to now we need the setup from Spielberg. You make with the color correction you make with a peak.
Yeah.
But then if you said we show the movie from Spielberg, we change to the user one.
Well, what you will do in that case is you measure the colors. You only have to measure the colors once. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you will have to do is put a different target. The target might be the Spielberg movie. The target might be HDTV. you put the target with projector controller and that target, and that's it. You don't have to measure them again. Okay, you just measure the projectors once.
Yeah, and
the target changes depending how many targets you want to have. In your case, you are not showing here movies, so your target always has to be, my advice is REC709. And that's what we will do today. We will measure them all, and we will save in user 1 REC709. But what I want you to understand is the REC709 numbers are the same numbers as HDTV. But you cannot select HDTV there because that HDTV is using as the measured the numbers done in Manchester, not the numbers that we're going to do here.
It's just stored something there, and under peak there is nothing stored.
What is on HDTV is what you will always get once you do a factory reset. It's a factory numbers for color, okay? But they will never match with more than one projector because those factory numbers are different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Set them all to 6500K. They're all going to be different. It's just a different setting that. It thinks.
In fact, HDTV is pretty close to 6,500 Kelvin.
Das ist schon. It's a color correction. The other things.
Yes,
and this peak has no color correction.
That's right. Peak has no color correction. So if you have selected in color peak, your projectors will always look different. Okay.
So,
because each of them are trying to
if we would decide to buy one of those instruments, we go again to peak, making these measurements,
write them down on a piece of paper,
and store
put them in each projector,
and store it under user 2. Now, for example,
no, you can override user 1.
No, for example, that we don't want to override.
You are not saving anything in user 1 or user 2. User 1 and user 2 are only for the targets, not for the. It's for the TCGD, not for the MCGD.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Now I think I understood it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay.